And we are live. We are live. This is Senate Finance. We are back. And who is feeding us ice cream today?
The American Cancer Society.
The American Cancer Society. I don't think I've seen that on their recommended cancer award.
It's in the fine print.
They say other than that.
Okay. We have a couple more bills I'm going to try and knock out this afternoon. I've heard from somebody who is a supporter, I think it's the Forest Products Association, I believe, but read the logo. And he can't be here till tomorrow or Thursday. We're pretty much booked tomorrow, and he wants to talk on the logging trucks. So we'll kick that down to Friday. I think tomorrow we got more witnesses signing up, so we're gonna be full. I wanted to talk to you about which one was it? We didn't do it yesterday. S12, the sealing of criminal history records. We sent an email over to Terry Corsons to ask what, why money had never been taken out, or it didn't look like money had been taken out, what was going on with this. She said, it was set up in 2019, but the fund had never actually been set up within the Judicial Bureau, I think, but there were $26,000 something sitting in it. Joint Fiscal just talked to me and said there was this email trail last night, yesterday afternoon, saying, well, what is it and what should we do with it? And we didn't send an email down to Judiciary. They said they didn't care if we killed it. So there's $26,000 sitting there. Somebody needs to decide what will happen with that. And so I think we just pass this, and then we ask the Judiciary Committee, since they are the creators, they're the ones that should decide if they destroy and what happens to the $26,000, or they may want to charge everyone that's getting their their record expunged, or they might want to donate the money to a victims fund, which have been struggling. So that would be my recommendation, that we just, well, because this bill doesn't do anything to the fund. It's just sitting there. It came to us because it's sitting there. They're taking it out. If they just not sent that part of the bill, just left it in current law, it probably wouldn't have come to us. But that would be my recommendation to dispatch that.
Thank you, Chair Cummings. Can I ask a question of the senator who's in Judiciary?
Sure can.
Thank you very much, sir. Did you all, I don't remember, did you have a discussion about the 26,000 or anything?
Not in committee, no.
Okay.
No, we didn't talk about fees at all during our deliberation of the bill.
Okay.
I think until it came here, nobody knew that it had been sitting there. The question is, why is just one group being charged to cover the cost of their expungement and not everybody? If I were their lawyer, I might be complaining about that, because I think it's $200, which is pretty hefty for some people. So I think we could compose an email and send it. We'll just nominate a emissary.
I mean, I'd be happy to speak with the next Judiciary Committee that will be working on this bill.
Or just tell them that
Yeah.
we have concerns that they've set up a fee, but that it's only on one group that's getting their record expunged, not on all these other groups. And there's 26,000 unexpended dollars that sounds like it's been sitting in the fund for a while. And what would what should happen to that.
What was supposed to be done with the money? Is
It
there
was-
anything in the bill that?
They're supposed to cover the cost of expungement. But we only charge DUI ones
Mhm.
to cover the cost of their expungements, not breaking and entering or any of the other things that got, I'm not sure what was included in there.
There's a long list of
Property
offenses that qualify crimes that's.
I did something stupid when I was 18 or 20, and I'm now 35, and I've got a clean record and a good job, and you'll do that. Okay. So that would be my recommendation, that we just vote it out of here to get it off our table. And not first having it.
Sounds good.
I'll make another attempt to take care of it as we try this afternoon.
Okay, I need a motion.
Oh, wow.
No, you should not make another motion.
I'll make
not
a
making a
motion
motion.
to have Senator Matos clean this up after we vote it out.
I
That
think the motion I need is we vote out
Favorable?
S18 favorably. No, it's not 18. What is it? It's 12.
That's cool. Yeah.
It's top of the next list. S12 favorably, with the sidebar that we will ask our emissary, Senator Matos, to judiciary to ask them to clean this up. And we can happily fix it in something like miscellaneous tax. Well, there's always something, tax, so probably miscellaneous tax if they're ready to clean it up this year.
Well, it's money
So moved.
anyway, so wouldn't
No, I
wouldn't
hear.
appropriations deal with, in effect, leftover money as to be, just like they take money out of everything?
This is a fund in the judiciary and they get really, the administration sweeps unspent money. But this is judicial money, there's separation of powers. It gets really touchy if you touch their money. So I just soon not touch it.
You would have to fun with it.
I don't need a lecture on constitutional.
No, you're right.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve S12 as presented because we got it because that fee was in there, which has been there for 6 years. With all the provisos that go with it. Any discussion, further discussion? Too much sugar.
It's not even Friday yet.
He was only.
We're in for a rough week.
All right, I'm gonna have the clerk call the roll since I'm hearing laughter, but no discussion.
Senator Gulick,
Yes.
Senator Hardy,
Yes.
Senator Brock,
Yes.
Senator Beck,
Yes.
Senator Matos, yes, Senator Chitnik.
Yep.
Senator Cummings.
Yes. Okay, who would
Senator
like
Rose here.
to report this?
Not I.
I'm gonna go out on a limb and say I'll do it.
Okay, good. That's a hard one. All right,
Minimus impact.
we have about 4 minutes till our next
I know, yeah.
folks get here. This is an act related to economic and workforce development. We're gonna do a walkthrough. Because we can't get our last folks until 4:15. At that point, we have been through most of what we have, except we have 65, in which there is a lot of interest. We have 127, which is that housing development, which I've been told has a tip in it for housing infrastructure. So, which was a bill I asked to have drafted, and never got out, but
Is there
apparently
any-
somebody did because it's in.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we will take a look at those, one on Wednesday, one on Thursday, and then we've got Friday for mop up.
Finally, I'm getting home.
We have
Tammy?
She hasn't
Yes.
confirmed recently. That was like a week or so.
Oh, we have been trying to get her, she
Sorry,
had to
Scott.
cancel something about her life's work was being destroyed in Washington and she had to go there. So we are trying to get Tammy in as part of our funding and I know we have banking and insurance housekeeping bill that's been voted out. So as soon as it's here, we'll take those up, but most of our time is gonna be spent on education. Rick, you might as well take.
Okay.
All
right.
Oh,
Allison, is this your bill? What's
It's our bill.
and yours?
It's our bill.
Okay.
And you have,
Do you want to give a little?
you have
intro?
3 of us right here.
Okay, same
3
as
of.
many other years.
Hi, where'd you get that?
Upstairs.
Upstairs.
Jeez.
Okay, I know.
There's plenty.
It looks like a 10-year-old birthday party.
So,
Do you want to do a little intro first or? do
sure.
you want-
No, I'll just do it with Rick.
Okay.
Stay right there.
You want to?
I'm fine. I'm fine.
What do you do?
This is
Allison,
our-
and why do you?
Chair.
Thank you.
Oh, he's a joke.
Thank you, Senate Finance Committee for looking at Senate Economic Development, Housing and General Affairs Economic Development Bill. I'm Allison Clarkson. I have the honor and privilege of chairing that committee, and we passed this out on Wednesday or Thursday for one, and this addresses, it is really I would say the overarching objective of this bill is to further support our small businesses. It's really builds on the resources we already have and adds one more and really add some more resources for under-resourced supports for our entrepreneurs and small businesses. That being said, the areas I know of it that may be of interest to you are the downtown tax credits.
This is where that one's right.
Yes,
Okay.
this is where this is riding. And this bill begins with expanding the downtown tax credit from 3 million, its current 3 million. It currently is supported by $3 million, and we are the governor, and we are proposing that we support the governor's proposal of 5 million. This is one of our only really splendid tools in our economic development toolbox. It leverages our state money 17-1, and it's an incredibly successful program. Always has more applicants than we have money for, and every one of most of our districts have benefited enormously from it. So I have wanted to expand this to $5 million since Paul Broom died. And I had proposed in our committee to take it up probably 5 or 6 years ago, whenever Paul died. I wanted to take it
This
up in
has
honor of him.
regularly come here. It also, we look at the revenues. This is money. We'll wait for the joint fiscal. There's been tension between the two committees in the past on this one. We haven't always approved, or we have processed it. And I think this needs a little approach, doesn't it? Yeah.
This bill does, yeah.
Okay, so we need to get it out. All right.
So that's really, I think, the main piece here that concerns this committee, although you may find others.
Me, but we haven't heard from him. He's not on the agenda.
he says he's not available until Thursday.
He's not available until Thursday. or
Who's
Friday.
he?
It's gotta go to approach. Who's in charge of downtown tax credits?
Oh, Chris Cochran.
Cochran, yeah. Okay. I'm not gonna sit on this if it has to go to approach.
We would love to have your support. It's,
Okay.
it is, as you know, a program that works incredibly well and has more demand than it has money, and we would
Okay.
hope to add some more money to it.
Yeah. Okay. And.
Anything further?
Allison? Okay, Rick's gonna walk us through.
Sure, Rick Sagel, Office of Legislative Counsel. Good to see you all, first time in finance.
Yes.
So
That's right. You
Yeah.
know everybody.
I tried. I was gonna say I tried to avoid this committee, but I would never say that. On the record, Madam Chair. Finance and appropriations are my two favorite committees. Again, Senator Clarkson, kind of brought you up on section 1 of the bill. There's several sections, and this is just the straight statutory change of the total amount of tax credits going from 3 million to 5 million. Just kind of a straightforward change there in section 1.
That's what you're looking at. You're looking at the bill.
Section 2 contains several small business appropriations. I don't know how much detail you want on these.
These are all appropriations.
Yeah,
And in each case, we're building on either the governor's recommend or on what their current amount is that they get from the state and further supporting it. We had a joint session with House Commerce and called our Small Business Wednesday, which was very successful. And these are the programs we think are really serving our small businesses and entrepreneurs in really productive and incredible ways. And all of them are under-resourced. And so this is an attempt to really support our small business and entrepreneurial community further with things.
Yeah. S12 is out. And we may get this one out. Okay.
So
One more, we may get, yeah.
Madam Chair, would you like me to go through these appropriations or?
You can just skim over it.
Okay.
because We don't have any control. We have, and I'm gonna ask Patrick when he gets up. I know there's been a series of increases in that downtown tax credit.
Yes.
So, I'll have him give that report.
yeah, it would be interesting because it's been at $3 million, I think, for quite a while.
Well, it went up during COVID with federal money. And then we found state money to keep it there. I think it was 2 million before that. In that area, we went up, yeah. But it's been $2 million increase is a lot in the increments we've done to it. So we'll look at it.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay, so again, section 2, mostly small business appropriations. Subsection A is money appropriated to the Department of Economic Development to support Vermont Law and Graduate Schools Small Business Center, where they give trainings and free legal support to individuals, groups. They have an attorney referral program. Subsection B, 350,000 is appropriated to the Vermont, to the Department of Economic Development to support the Vermont Professional Color Network in their critical workforce and business development services. It's going to help expand their business technical assistance services, which is again education on basic business practices, resource navigation, those kind of things.
okay. I gotta get new glasses. I was just reading 120,000, on small business development is 120 million.
Oh,
No,
no.
100,
No,
Uh,
it is a decimal point, not a comma.
Yeah.
But it gets kind of blurred with the underline. I'm saying, whoa, that got my attention.
That might get flagged by appropriations, Madam Chair. So we go down to subsection C. This is $688,889 to the Vermont Small Business Development Center to help Vermonters start, acquire, and grow their businesses. You can see the purpose there as to what the money will be used for. That is an increase of 300,000 from the governor's suggested budget. Subsection D is 100,000 to the Vermont Sustainable Jobs Fund program for the purpose of creating a resource guide, which will actually include a website and an AI platform to help businesses understand and access events, grants, programs, educational content, those kind of things. And then subsection E is 581,000 to the Office of Economic Opportunity for VCAP's micro business development program. Subsection F, 120,000, not 120 million. Small
My
business,
speed has gone down.
just for the record, business center to provide executive business skills training and coaching support to small business owners. Those are 20 or fewer employees. You can see what those training and coaching services would include there. Okay, section 3 of the bill It's another appropriation. This is to the Vermont Arts Council. And this is just to match the anticipated federal fund increase of $68,737.
And another 100.
What happens if that federal funding doesn't come through?
Right, it has to be matched dollar for dollar.
Okay,
And then it also, we have an additional 120 to have a program to really try and create a resource guide for the film and media industry so that we can really attract, even though we don't have any more tax credits and even though we have eliminated the Vermont Film Commission, that we provide real support for and resources and opportunities for people who are interested in shooting ads here, who are doing media projects and who may want to do films here. And Randy is our spokesperson for this section.
We had an amazing when we had a task force looking at business development opportunities 2 summers ago and focus on the film industry. The number of people who came out who are working on the film industry in Vermont, who are resident in Vermont, but typically have to go to Boston or to New York or to Los Angeles and so on to do a lot of their work. And the fact that there's no cohesive get together of folks like that, and that's probably part of the reason why movies like Wednesday is made, instead of in Vermont, it's supposed to be seen in Vermont, it's made in Romania, and why Moonlight in Vermont was made in Vancouver, and so on and so
a
forth.
lot of films are made in Canada. I know
Yeah.
Montreal, which is going in, has a big film studio.
They support it financially in really substantial ways that we found in
Yeah.
Vermont we couldn't.
Yeah, we
and that's
could
why
not
we
do it in
dissolved
Vermont.
this.
But what we did is we took a look at places like Vermont
Yeah.
who do have effective film industries and how they built them. And the way they built them was with expertise and hands-on help, as well as it's a way to get tourism because it displays Vermont in a way that very few types of activities do.
Bit of history and cautionary tale.
Mm.
It was even before my time here. Don Johnson made a movie in Vermont. The legislature was going through hard times and Don Johnson was getting paid a lot of money.
Miami Vice, Don Johnson?
No, this was a movie. And we decided that he should be paying Vermont income tax on that. He was a Florida resident. So we passed a bill on if you're an out-of-stater, but you earn money in Vermont, which we still have, but it was very closely tied to Don Johnson and was aimed at him. And the film industry walked away from us because we were seen as vindictive. Of course, that was the same year they mentioned maybe we should tax every plane that landed at the Burlington airport. They were pretty desperate. It was in the mid-90s. But the film industry, we have been anathema to the film industry since then. And we have a lot of bridge building to do.
Does this include, when you say the film industry, does it include, first of all, non-commercial films? So, small, and documentaries and
Yes.
all of that. And also, is there any connection to this with the academic film departments in the state?
Well, we certainly talked about that. One of the things that we found is we have all these people who are taking film courses in Vermont, had no place to practice their craft.
Oh, they have plenty of places. Actually, Middlebury College has one of the best film and media
Yeah,
departments in the
I'm familiar-
country.
yeah, no, I'm absolutely familiar with that. But what I'm talking about is that there are no commercial places other than academic institutions.
But it is designed for all films.
It's designed
Okay,
for all.
and it's
So
also
still on TV.
film,
TV.
film and TV, and also film, festivals, because one of the problems with film festivals is that they're not accessible to people. They're extremely expensive. So
Mhm.
we have film festivals in Vermont that Vermonters can't afford to go to. So is that part of what they do?
Going on in
I think-
Montpelier.
this will be designed as it is created. So I think that input, I think that this is the beginning and the Arts Council is going to be the umbrella for that, for this work.
Okay, one of the other reasons is that we are not easily accessible by air. That you can't get a plane from Hollywood to Vermont. You have to go to DC, Newark, one of those, and do the,
Or Montreal.
yeah, or Montreal and drive down. It's, and we had testimony from the, captive insurance people that were holding their, and we require them by law to hold their annual meeting here, that they could not book enough plane flights to get their people in. They had to send a bus to Boston or somewhere and truck people up because we don't have enough flights coming in to book a couple hundred people on the same day. So we have some access issues you might want to look at. But we're gonna go on because we're just dealing with the money.
Right.
So we aren't, they are.
Right. So Madam Chair, if I may, we have,
So far, we've got one fee.
you've so far that, and that's all that's in here at the moment. I just got an answer from Chris Cochran because I was curious about how, because I knew it had been a while. It's been 4 years at $3 million. We had 1 year during the pandemic when it got a $2 million boost. But other than that, for the last 4 years, it's been at 3 million.
Okay. And we will. I want to get an update from joint fiscal on what our revenues projections are looking like. I know you're not prepared for it today, I don't think, unless you are. But I'll get that in on Friday before we, oh no, we can't, we've got to vote this out. I did before, well, the folks can always take it out or stick it on the wall. Before we give away $2 million, that's $2 million that could go into the reserve farmers reserve fund, because they're already losing, what is it, $1.5 million in food, farm to school and farm to plate. Yeah.
No, you're right. There are many other needs. This returns 17 to 1 in its effectiveness. This is one of our most
Yes, I'm
important.
not arguing that.
Yeah, no, I realize. This is really, as we're in a housing crisis, of course, this is also used in big time to help us redevelop our downtowns and village centers and make them, and it has built a huge amount. It's enabled building a lot of economic development and housing, as you know.
Okay. So these are approach. So let's keep going very quickly through the appropriations.
Sure. Section 4 is an appropriation to the Department of Forest, Parks and Recreation to support the Vermont Outdoor Business Alliance's Climate and Circularity Outdoor Business Program. And you can see it's $250,000, and the funds will be used for technical assistance to outdoor businesses, managing small group workshops and one-on-one consultations, and coordinating industry events that will assist businesses on financial planning and appropriate adaptations. Section 5 is an appropriation to the International Trade Office, International Trade Division, to hire international recruitment consultants to focus more on international markets, developing and employing advanced site selection data and mapping tools, expand Vermont's presence at national and international trade shows, and to sponsor events and initiatives that align with Vermont's economic development goals.
And this is primarily to develop partnerships, trade partnerships with Asia and in Europe. We've had a very successful trade office in Montreal that has done a lot of development of bringing business, Québec's businesses into Vermont. A little challenge at the moment, and so we are expanding this and hope to do this both in Asia and in Europe.
We've been working with Taiwan.
We have, that's what this is
There
building.
is a trade office in Taiwan.
That's what this is building on, that hope.
Speaking of trade, Section 6 creates a Vermont transitions.
Nice.
The Vermont
There you
Ireland
go.
Trade Commission, which was a separate bill this year that got put into this committee bill. Again, not a huge effect here on, there's a small appropriation for per diems that members of the commission receive. However, and several states have passed these commissions in recent years. It's a 10-person commission that looks to basically, advance whatever interest one country, one state has. Trade, bilateral trade, academic and business exchanges, mutual economic support between the two entities.
Why Ireland?
Because they've come to us and asked.
Yes, this is just a boondoggle situation.
We haven't designed it as a boondoggle. It is, they have asked and other, I think if other countries ask, this is trying to set up a model for how to do this with other countries. And I think that there's a lot of interest in doing this, with other countries as well. But it doesn't pay. It doesn't pay for lots of travel. It doesn't do any. We just had the straight per diem for meetings.
There's no
meetings a year.
fund that's created
No.
with donations from wealthy people.
We had long discussion about that.
That was what was in it last year.
Sure.
That seemed like it created this ridiculous boondoggle.
We were uncomfortable about that and about expanding it too much. And so about the limitations of the debt platform.
So there's no fund.
There is still a fund.
Limitations. So
It's not a fund that's paying people.
It's not a fund that will pay them. They will be paid by the state as a normal per diem for meeting on any task force or any commission that you serve on.
The fund would only pay for the per diems for the people.
No.
What would the
Right.
fund pay for?
Let me clarify. Okay. So
Let's go.
you have two things going on with this commission. You have the standard per diem language that's in our statutes.
Are we on the International Trade Office or are we on
Ireland.
Ireland?
We're on Ireland.
We're
Because
down to Ireland.
we were
Okay.
concerned about this exact issue.
Yeah,
So for members who serve on the commission, they are eligible for standard per diem and expense
okay,
reimbursement.
why are 10 people necessary for a commission?
Policy
This
question.
is what was asked for as they designed.
So I think
It's
we're limited
quite
to
large for.
6 meetings. The per diems are limited to 6 meetings per year. And then the other portion is the authorization to raise funds. This is the thing the committee talked quite a bit about.
Mhm.
And the fear that those raising the funds would be used to, buy plane tickets, those kind of things. So the language was updated to say just the funds that are raised by the commission can only pay for the commission's administrative expenses. Members of the commission cannot be reimbursed based on these funds. Secondly, any in-kind donations that members get through their work must be reported annually to the General Assembly. So hopefully that assures that, use the word boondoggle, I don't know if I can write that word in the wall, but I think it's written in a way to, they did bring that up.
Yeah, that was another
There's
concern.
a-
There was probably
pretty
more
good
discussion
discussion.
about that than any other part of this bill. Because there was a concern of both misconduct and the appearance of misconduct.
Yeah.
So I think we were very, very sensitive to that.
Well, reporting to the General Assembly, I mean, that's not something that, I mean, it seems to me, according to they're like filling out some ethics forms would be more, I mean, what are we gonna do with the report?
So the state treasurer, Asplin testified that, they'll have all their members of the commission complete these ethics trainings, didn't she say on the record, that whenever they work with these groups, they have to abide by their own policies of doing the ethics training. I'm not sure about forms that they must fill out. We might,
Well, any more than
Follow
the
up on
form
that.
we fill out as individuals, because it's 3 people from the House, 3 people from the Senate, 3 people the governor appoints, and the treasurer. That's who at the moment is serving on the commission.
And the lobbyists have to report if they spend more than $10 on us, which right now is a cup of coffee and a pastry downtown. They have to report, so we're afraid somebody's gonna be giving out Irish sweaters.
I doubt it. It's way beyond that. Look,
It's way beyond that. Like as in
So we tried to thread the needle with this because we were, this took a lot of conversation and, none of us were comfortable with it being viewed as a boondoggle and the perception of that. So,
Just, it's, I
happy,
appreciate that you worked to make it better than it was. It still does not make me comfortable.
it's imperfect. It may be imperfect. I also acknowledge it's an evolving conversation that we will have both in this committee, in approach and in the House. So it's just was getting started. I
We
think
viewed it as
positive.
an opportunity as much as anything else, and particularly because we were asked. I know I certainly was not part of the original discussion. I saw it when the bill was here presented, but I do have some experience with economic development and Ireland and US-based operations, and I did work in that area for a period of time. And I found Ireland to be very different than most of the other European countries in terms of its willingness to be flexible and to adopt to what the US partner wants to do, as opposed to saying, this is our program and we ask you to adapt to us. And it makes a big difference. And so I think, should be looking for partners to work with us as a small state that perhaps will do the kinds of things that we want done as opposed to fitting into their mold. And that's why I think this is particularly attractive. And just as we have done that with Canada, and we have, I think, some very significant success in bringing businesses in and making connections. And I think Ireland offers that opportunity to us. And we're not talking about spending big money here at all.
They're going around and asking all the states for this. I mean, they did a major campaign last year where one of their senators came and took people out to dinner around the country to get states to, so I don't think this is unique to Vermont. It's not like they're like, oh, let's do stuff with
It is not
Vermont.
unique to Vermont, but it could be unique in the way it affects Vermont and the things that are offered to Vermont. That's what I'm concerned. And I think I told the story committee, at least one of my experiences was in looking for a place to put an administrative operation in Europe. And I know we looked at, and I personally went and looked at all kinds of places and did the same in parts of Asia. And what wound up settling on Ireland, and among them was Ireland's approach was very different, because instead of saying, these are the things that we have to offer you, they actually asked, what do you want? None of the others did that. And we put 5,000 people in Ireland as a result of that approach.
Senator Chin.
I just want to share my support for this, and I know this didn't make it, it was discussed last biennium. I just see this time period is even more important for us to just work through some of these kinks and creating these relationships abroad. I'm open to more of these, but not until we sort of work through these mechanisms. And I think this is a great first step. I'm glad it's in this bill, because I'd love to build more bridges with our international community and not tear them down.
And if I may, Madam Chair, I think that's Tom, I'd like to build on Tom's point, because we really view this is a first. We don't have anyone like this. And we're sort of using this as a way to, as it makes it through the process, the legislative process, we'll hopefully get this model at least in a good place to start and try one out and see how it works.
Okay,
But
I wasn't privy to other discussions. So this would be setting up an Ireland, Vermont Trade Commission. And the purpose of that commission would be to establish trade and between the two countries. But it sounds like there was something that went on last time with raising money from wealthy Irish people, or what's the concern? I mean, I think many of us have been to Taiwan courtesy of the Taiwanese government.
But if I may, Madam Chair, I think the concern is that it's viewed as a way that people would just get lots of free trips and a way to go to Ireland and it's sort of a junket.
The original bill had this kind of slush fund attached to it.
And we were uncomfortable with the slush fund, and we were uncomfortable with legislators being paid out of that slush fund. That is why we have legislators paid by our normal legislative
Right, and you
task
don't
force.
get paid if you're on. If it's an official,
We get 6 official meetings to start with.
yes,
See
no,
if that
I mean,
works.
you don't get paid. If you went to Taiwan, you didn't get paid.
No, these are meetings here.
Yeah, so, okay.
We haven't envisioned meetings in Ireland. That is, I think.
Okay, but the concern is maybe, yes, and maybe the source of that funding wouldn't be controlled by us. I suppose this all
The
has.
source of any legislator compensation, for example, or compensation for members would be controlled because
Yes.
in the same way it's controlled here,
Yeah.
using the same kinds
Yeah.
of standards and limits.
Right,
Which is why we put that in.
We did
So
that
that
deliberately.
there was no appearance of impropriety or.
but if the government of
Side-
Vermont wanted to pay to bring some Irish businessmen here, that I assume would be a bill or in the economic development budget.
Or it would just happen, they would pay for themselves.
Oh, they would pay for themselves, yeah, but if we wanted to do that, that would go through the process, the same with if Ireland came. Yeah, all right. I mean,
Shall I move on?
Yeah.
please, since it's not in our jurisdiction.
Section 7 and 8 also deal with the trade commission, just appointments, and then the repeal, the future repeal in 2030.
Yeah, we've put in a sort of sunset to see, just to evaluate it and see how it worked.
Section 9 is a task of the Agency of Community Commerce and Community Development to analyze ways the state can better enable business growth and improve access to capital. This was initially a task force. The committee decided to change it to just a task of the agency to report back, just a task.
It's a task, but it was when we heard, when we had our Small Business Wednesday, one of the biggest needs that small businesses voiced is need for venture capital and need for capital at different stages of growth. And it's unclear what the state's role is in enabling businesses access to capital. And so we thought it was worth a discussion. There is capital out there, and I think it would be really helpful for us to articulate where and how people access it and support our businesses in identifying that.
And a report is due November 1st of this year. The last section is a task force, and that is to explore the development of a convention center and performance venue within the state. There are 6 members of the task force, 2 members of the legislature, the Secretary of Commerce and Community Development or designee, a couple of Chamber of Commerce representatives, and the president of the RDCs or their designee. So their powers and duties, you can see, pretty much determining that if the state can do this or what's needed through appropriations, bonding, tax instruments, infrastructure, you're talking about the airport, what's needed to develop this kind of project and retain this kind of project, consider management and operational options for ownership, maintenance, staffing, research other states, how they've developed in recent years, their convention centers, and maybe adopt some of their successful attributes. And finally, evaluate the economic impact and return on investment of having these types of centers and venues.
Maybe I could just speak to this really quick. So my colleague across the way too, I definitely think she wants to hear this. I grew up in South Burlington and I saw my concerts at Memorial Auditorium. Memorial Auditorium is now forlorn. It really was a regional asset. It wasn't just Burlington's Memorial Auditorium. It was Chittenden counties, if not the states. Across the lake over in Plattsburgh, I forget the name of it. Yeah, it's been demolished. It's not there. We're in just a performance venue desert. And I'm tired of going up to Montreal and Boston to see shows. So this is not to say it needs to be in Burlington, but I think Burlington has it. And the Lake Plain Chamber has a current initiative on this. They've got an RFP out. They're working on it. But I think that the convention center versus a performance venue, they're two different things that maybe they're tied to it. This just seemed to make a lot of sense to just think about from an economic development perspective to bring that conversation into the State House, because I just think Vermont needs a place for Noah Kahan to perform during the winter. And so that's what I'm all about. And so someplace that can handle his crowds as well as many other venues. It just right now shows they go from Boston up to Montreal and they can do the Flynn, but if they're too big for the Flynn, they just can't do anywhere around here. So that's what this is all about.
And for long, we've had a discussion about wanting to do a convention center here. There are many, it would be a huge economic development driver, and there are lots of people interested in it. And there are many proposals out there. This would we hope focus the discussion and shine a light on this need. And so that's really why we decided to pull it together as a task force.
Okay. The only thing in this bill that we have jurisdiction over is the downtown fee, and we've got people coming in 10 minutes, so I want to get to that, and have Patrick come.
Oh, Patrick.
So.
Thank you very much, Chair Cummings. Thank you, Senator Clarkson, for that great presentation.
Thank you
I'm
for
in full,
listening.
I'm in full support of this bill. I only know this because I've been interviewing with Quebec radio stations and TV stations. We exported $680 million to Canada in 2023. 88% of those, the merchandise in that was from small businesses. I fear the tariffs and the reprisals coming from Canada, so I support you supporting small business. And in terms of Ireland, they are open for business. Ireland's economy was doing well when the rest of Europe was not. They are the Silicon Valley of Europe. So I think the fact that they are, like I said, open for business, we should take advantage of that. So I'm excited about this bill. Thank you.
And being proactive about engaging partners in that. So
Exactly. Yeah.
thank you.
No, it's not. I'm done with motion.
Okay, so Anne, are we getting a motion and you want Patrick in here?
Patrick's right here.
Okay. Do you want us to vacate?
I'll,
We can
let's
move.
stay.
Patrick.
You can go back to your afternoon.
No, I get that. Let's go.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So I'm gonna just stick to the areas of jurisdiction, right?
Yes.
So I can put the fiscal note, although I think it's really been kind of covered already. I do want to respond to maybe a couple of questions that I heard. So it has been set at the annual cap, it's been set at 3 million for 4 years, right? Most recently in 2022, there was a $2.45 million expansion on a temporary basis. And that 2.45 would be spread over fiscal years 23 and 24. So at the end of 24, that temporary expansion kind of went away. So it is back sort of statutorily going forward at 3 million. What this in effect does, as you know, is it just increases the net by 2 million. So that's just the amount that can be awarded each year. And I guess just to make sure everyone is sort of fully up to speed on what these are used for, there's sort of 4 different types of projects that can be done with them. Facade rehabilitation, code improvement, flood mitigation, and historic rehabilitation. And so developers can be awarded these credits, and they have either the option to offset their own personal or corporate income tax liability with it. But what happens most often is they sell it to banks or insurance companies, and they offset their insurance premium or bank franchise tax with them. Sometimes they just do that because they prefer to have the capital up front. And so all those income sources do feed into the general fund. So it is a $2 million sort of annual, I guess, new ask on general fund
Tax
resources.
expenditure.
Exactly.
It is. What do we, yeah, it's $2 million that we won't receive that we would have received otherwise if we do.
That's right. And the credits are not typically claimed in the same year that they're awarded, because the developers have 3 to 5 years, depending if they're also leveraging some federal grant money or credit money that they're eligible for that project for. But once that specific phase of the project has been completed, then those credits can be claimed. So there is a lag between, if we're sort of over several steps, awarding the credit, there's a lag for selling the credit, there's a lag for completing the project. So, there is sort of a time element that gets introduced into how the 2 million is spread out annually.
It's not just next year's budget. If the market crashes, these tax expenditures could hit at a time when the budget was in bad shape. I mean, we can't say, oh, it'll be next year and we can pull it back if something bad happens.
Well, this also represents a permanent increase in the cap, so it's the amount that can be awarded every year,
Every
sort of in perpetuity unless it's changed.
Unless-
And
But even
you,
if we decide to pull that back 1 year because we were cutting holes in the safety net, and some of us have done that. If they were awarded this year, but they've got 3 to 5 years to claim that they could be claiming during a time when the money was tight. Something. I'm a little nervous about the economy.
well, you had asked a very timely question about general fund revenues and how they're tracking so far
Yeah.
this year. We'll sort of sneak peek, something that'll be getting distributed later this afternoon. But we'll be releasing the revenue results for the month of February.
Okay.
And through sort of year to date since the January forecast came out, the general fund's tracking about $33 million ahead, like above target. And just to put that in percentage terms, that's about 2.3% ahead of target so far year to date. Obviously, we're coming up on, which is sort of
That's the big
that's when the money tree shakes in the state.
Not this year, it's next year.
Well,
So
but
we send this over. If a folks decides they don't have the money to cover it, they can put it on, I have a feeling they will put it on the wall until everything comes in, so they can balance this out with doing stuff with the homeless and doing the flood mitigation and doing a whole bunch of other things that will be tacked to the wall.
Will they put the tax part of it on the wall though? I know they'll put the
It's a tax
appropriation.
expenditure, so yes, they have cut it in the past when we've sent it over and asked us, what were you thinking? Or they will pass out the bill and keep that, take that section out and leave it open on the wall until they get a sense of what of how everything is going to gel out at the end, and they'll do the prioritizing.
so one comment I will just say on sort of order of operations with how Tom and Jeff, sort of operate. So the effective date for this bill is July 1st of 2025. So that'll be coming into account when Tom and Jeff are doing their fiscal year 26 forecast. So what they do, the current one we have is based on current law.
Right.
And so this change will be affecting sort of the next budget cycle.
Right.
So just for a little context.
Yeah. Okay. Committee, questions, comments? We have 5 minutes to make a decision,
Oh, I'm ready to
because if we put this off, it needs to go to a vote. So this is one that needs to come out. I think if they look at it and say, we just can't do this. And they've got a lot of appropriations. I have a feeling this bill is gonna be there a little while.
Yeah, we've got one small piece that's get out of here.
Yeah.
I'll move S-122 favorably out of committee. Is that correct?
Just move to approve as presented.
Move to approve.
Okay, Senator.
I'm fine with the tax credit part. I have a lot of questions and concerns about the appropriations and some of the things in the bill. So this vote is just for our part. I'm happy to approve it, but I reserve the right to question the rest of it.
Yeah.
Feel free to talk.
I try, unless we are hugely, hugely horrified, to only look at our sections of the bill. I will not say that we have never gone beyond that. Sometimes new information surfaces or new concerns, but I do try to hold us to ours. So we have a motion to approve as presented, understanding we are only looking at the tax credit increase. Okay, any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say, oh no, I can't do that anymore. Call the roll.
Senator Beck,
Yes.
Senator Chittenden. Senator Brock,
Yes.
Senator Hardy.
Yeah.
Senator Meadows, yes. Senator Gulick,
Yes.
Senator Cummings,
Yes,
7-0-0.
okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Chittenden, would you like?
Happy to.
Senator Brock, you're on the committee. Do you want to inform us? Tom, you're on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's your choice.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Next. Welcome to crossover. And these are the easy ones. Next, we are moving on to an act related to motor vehicles. Okay. Damien isn't here yet. He's got, but he's probably tied up. This is the one, I don't know what we're gonna do. We have the guy with bloggers that wants to come in, Forest Products. He can't be here today. We wanted to look at this bill before we made a decision on the purchase and use tax credit, which isn't enough to save any logging industry yet, isn't enough. It's decimal dust in the ed funds. I think it might be a little bigger than decimal dust in the transportation fund, but they have decided to do it.
Seems like all these things add up though.
They all
Those
add
funds are
up,
having a
and
bad
that's
time.
the problem with doing things, appropriations. And is this what we're doing, is there an appropriation in that?
I was told on the list you received yesterday that this one was supposed to go to appropriation.
This one is going to appropriation, so I can't hold it till Friday. So we're gonna have to look at this and make a decision. Because we can't go home till we have a transportation bill.
This is the miscellaneous motor vehicles bill. This is not transportation.
It's not on the transportation.
No.
Okay. We are waiting for Dave. You can be at ease, but I'm gonna keep us live. Because the minute we shut it off. But after this one, we finished. And I need to leave by 5 o'clock, so we should get this, I think we can get this done. If not, I'll have to let Senator Chittenden take it over.
Okay.
You can see there's an appropriation, I'm assuming, yeah.
What number is our?
So you see money at the end?
There.
Yeah.
That must be what it is.
Yeah, I'm only on page 2.
Oh, I'm just looking at the
That's the
fiscal
one at
note.
the end, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's, no, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so we need what's happening.
Yes.
That's out. We're on a roll. Look at that. So we move 123, we have 65. What's the third one up?
That's Wednesday. That's Thursday. This is right now.
That's right.
And that's the logging vehicle one.
Oh, that's, okay. So if we do this, all right, so we're gonna do this one and 46 together. Or we'll make a decision on it together. And that leaves us with 2 and 3 days. Friday, we actually hope we have Tammy Colby and we can go back.
She says she's good to go. We are on.
She says she's good to go. Okay. So we will do that on Friday and any mop up that we might spill out here, but I think we're okay.
Listen to it. That's right. She wasn't here that.
Must have got tied up. It just says busy on his calendar.
Okay,
Give till 4 o'clock.
Logan, can you tell us where the money is in this bill? And if you can look at that. Oh, no, okay.
Apologize for being late.
No problem. We're just gonna Logan go through.
Logan, do
Yeah.
you want to sit here?
Please, Logan.
No one wants to sit there. I don't know why. Okay, Damien, the floor is yours. We're on a roll. We're just knocking them out of here, so.
All right.
All right.
Okay. We're looking, well, first for the record, I'm Damon Leonard from the Office of Legislative Counsel. Hope that's not a sign of things.
No, this is, it's been a long day.
All right, so we're looking at S-123. Would you like me to pull it up on the screen?
That's helpful, I think, if people are watching at home. And I will tell you, we have held S-46, which is, I believe that's it, the purchase and use on logging vehicles,
Yes.
just because we wanted to get a sense as to what was in this bill, so a little concerned about giving any money away from the transportation or the education fund, but it's pretty de minimis to education. It's pretty de minimis to everybody, but it's not gonna help a whole lot of loggers either. So we're trying to decide what we're gonna do.
Yeah, I had heard some whisperings on the wind that float up to the 3rd floor, that you were holding on to S-46 while you waited to see this, so.
It's a nasty money committee, so we wanna pay for things. All right,
So, let me go ahead and share my screen. So I will walk you through the sections that have a fee in them.
okay.
Bear with me, it's a 57-page bill, so we're going to be doing a fair amount of scrolling. The first piece in here that has fee attached to it is going to be, let's see, I haven't memorized my sections yet. Here we are, starting in section 5, where I've conveniently put the heading fees. So this is not all of them, but this is a bunch of the fees that are in the bill. The piece in here is that we've provided an exemption for individuals who are exiting the foster care system to receive a non-driver identification card. So that's normally a $29 fee, and they would receive that free of charge. So the phrasing there is an individual under 23 years of age who was in the care and custody of the Commissioner for Children and Families in Vermont after attaining 14 years of age. And we've provided a statutory reference specifically to foster care because otherwise we would also capture children in juvenile detention, in the kinship program, and in other programs the commissioner oversees. You'll see this phrase repeated. I'm just going to say children or individuals exiting the foster care program from here on out. The next fee waiver here is in the next section. This would take the EV infrastructure fee, which is $89 a year for electric vehicles and half of that for plug-in hybrid electric vehicles. And it exempts the state, municipalities, and then volunteer firefighter, rescue, and ambulance organizations from that fee. Logan can walk you through the
What is it
estimates.
cost? That one is a little more expensive.
Yes, it's a higher fee. I don't know the extent to which we're seeing a lot of electric vehicles in that sector yet for firefighting and emergency, but certainly for the state and municipalities, you're seeing fleet vehicles.
You've got a whole parking lot full of them at the Department of Labor.
Yes. Yeah, so you're seeing fleet vehicles now increasingly in that sector. Yep. The next is we're expanding an existing veterans exemption here. You'll note that the language already says in section 7, the existing language says no fees shall be charged to an honorably discharged veteran of the U.S. Armed Forces who has acquired a motor vehicle through financial assistance from the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. This is a very small number of veterans in Vermont. The original proposal was to add the annual emissions fee, which is assessed under Title III. For clarity, it's a $2 fee that's on your registration. And then the committee decided to also add in the EV infrastructure fee, since we're already saying no fees. Just for clarity, this new fee is not included. And then the other expansion here is that it went from honorably discharged veterans who received this financial assistance from U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs to veterans who received a discharge under other than dishonorable conditions. So there are some other discharges which are not misconduct discharges. I don't know the extent to which you can qualify for that Department of Veterans Affairs financial assistance if you're not honorably discharged. The sense that the committee had across the hall was that that change wasn't going to dramatically increase this pool, which is very small already. So Logan, I think you've got the specific number, 3 people who are receiving this financial assistance.
So that's discharge though, other than dishonorable means a person could receive a bad conduct discharge and qualify for this discount.
I think dishonorable includes other than honorable and misconduct.
Well,
Googled it.
we've
Yeah,
we've struck out.
so it's dishonorable conditions, not
Yeah.
dishonorable discharge. So it does exclude
Yeah,
bad
okay.
conduct discharge.
Yeah, that's right.
So we're excluding
You
bad
can have a
conduct,
conduct discharge, it's not dishonorable.
but it's under dishonorable conditions.
What does
It's
that
not,
mean?
it's not a capitalized dishonorable discharge. It's
But
more in
what does that
general.
mean? Are we clear on the definition of what other than dishonorable?
So this is language we've been using in the Vermont statutes to cover a medical discharge, general discharge, and an honorable discharge. And I'm probably missing 1 or 2, but to exclude misconduct or bad conduct discharge and a dishonorable discharge. And again, I may be missing
I think those
missing
are,
one. So
I would want to be a little more comfortable, sure that those definitions are correct.
Senator Chittenden says he has found a definition.
Well, the quick Google, there's honorable discharge, general discharges, entry-level separations or uncharacterized discharges, medical discharges, expiration of term of service, convenience of the government, dependency, hardship, pregnancy, parenthood, failure to meet certain conditions. Those would all be counted as punitive discharges, which is what we're talking about, the dishonorable, the bad conduct, and other dishonorable charges. So I think
Does it
it's,
specifically say, bad conduct is dishonorable?
that's how I would interpret this.
I did not remember it that way, which is why I'm asking the question.
I think there's military terms, and Damien is saying that in the legal statutes in Vermont, that's what this term means. Doesn't necessarily have the same definition as any one military service.
Well, here's what I'm reading right now, my
Yeah,
automated intelligence. No, when I ask, is a bad conduct discharge the same as a dishonorable discharge? No, a bad conduct discharge, BCD, and a dishonorable discharge, DD, are not the same, though both are punitive discharges handed down by a court martial, with a dishonorable discharge being the more severe of the two.
So, the. And just see here. It's the conditions, it's not specifically a dishonorable discharge. So the Veterans Affairs uses the phrase under other than dishonorable conditions. So this is the US Department of Veterans Affairs. Let me just find the right language here. So generally, to receive VA benefits and services, the veteran's character of discharge or service must be under other than dishonorable conditions, e.g. honorable, under honorable conditions, or general. Certain VA benefits are available even to individuals receiving a bad conduct or other than honorable discharge. But it specifically, I think what you're going to find is a bad conduct or dishonorable discharge are both going to disqualify for you for this, and I will confirm that for you when Logan takes over. But it's the just find. So yeah, 38 USC 101 who defines it. And I can find this for you if the chair would prefer one, not in the chair, and just get you the site, but it's this is language that I worked with my predecessor, Anthea Dexter Cooper, on in prior years when I was covering the military and veterans affairs portfolio, and she was covering transportation. And then this was also reviewed by Bob Burke from the Office of Veterans Affairs here.
But there are, there's an honorable discharge, there's a dishonorable discharge, and then there's an other than honorable discharge.
Right, and this is.
And that's where bad conduct could be involved.
Yes.
I thought, didn't it say other than honorable?
Other than dishonorable
Other than
conditions.
dishonorable.
So in my mind, it is including bad conduct and a number of other conditions. And I look at bad conduct and say, well, why would we do this for somebody who's discharged for bad conduct?
Can we continue? And then we'll give Damien a chance to define that. I'm looking at all the military guys.
Well,
here this
that's not what I'm talking about.
Okay,
I don't understand what we're doing here. The way I read this, it says no fees, including the annual emissions, the electric EV infrastructure fees pursuant to section 361, shall be charged to a veteran of the U.S. Armed Forces who received a discharge under other than dishonorable conditions. That to me reads like we're not going to charge fees to these people that.
Hold on.
Am I reading that totally wrong or?
So you're missing a key
Okay.
modifier. So.
Okay.
So it's received a discharge under other than dishonorable conditions and is a resident of the state of Vermont. And has acquired with for the registration of a motor vehicle that the veteran has acquired with financial assistance from the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. There are 3 veterans in the entire state who have acquired a motor vehicle with assistance from the Department of Veterans Affairs under that program.
Okay.
So that's what it, yes, other than dishonorable, there are thousands of veterans in Vermont who qualify for that. But when you get down to this financial assistance from Department of Veterans Affairs, this is a very narrow program. If the concern is that there are going to be veterans who receive this financial assistance, and this is going by expanding it from honorably discharged to receive a discharge under other than dishonorable conditions, the committee decided to make this change to make it consistent with other veteran language in Title 23. But if the concern is that this is going to expand that benefit too much, then you could go back to an honorably discharged veteran who is a resident of Vermont and is registering a vehicle that they received with financial assistance or the replacement for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
It is clunky language. I had
It's-
to read it twice, and the first time I read it, it sounded like we were saying if you were dishonorably discharged, we were going to do that.
Exactly.
But it's other
Other than
receive a
dishonorable.
discharge other than dishonorable, so it's other than dishonorable conditions.
Oh,
And
okay.
it's not
Mhm.
dishonorable discharge, it's the broader
It's like a
range of
double
dishonorable,
negative.
yeah, it's a double
Okay.
negative. I had to,
So there are people, for example, who get bad conduct discharges, who may be discharged under honorable conditions, but also can be discharged under less than honorable.
well,
conditions.
think what,
There's that third category of less than honorable conditions is what's important.
But I see the double negative.
could we do it,
So-
it's not, would we be blowing the whole thing to do? But you say this is the phraseology used in the veterans, the other veterans benefit, so I believe there's a principle in law, if you don't say it the same way, you don't mean the same thing.
Right. So if I can provide some summary.
Yeah.
The term conditions other than dishonorable is not a term of art in military and was chosen by Congress in 1944 to provide the VA with some discretion with respect to setting the standard for veteran status and benefits eligibility for former service members. See Garvey v. Wilkie Federal Circuit in 2020. In October 1946, the VA codified its regulations, which reiterated that for a former service member to obtain benefits, they must have been terminated under conditions other than dishonorable. The VA provided that dishonorable discharges include those due to mutiny, spying, or an offense involving moral turpitude or willful and persistent misconduct, terms that originated in a law dating back to 1924. The VA also considered dishonorable and undesirable discharge to escape trial by general court-martial, and at the time, a discharge due to homosexual acts, which is no longer in the rules for the VA. And then the VA further codified statutory bars. So we're tracking the VA's language here. And the VA is already excluding discharges that involve misconduct, undesirable discharges, and dishonorable discharges from their own benefits for the most part.
Yeah, this is the third category, that other than honorable.
Right, and that's the term that other than dishonorable. So
Mhm.
yeah, so that their conditions other than dishonorable tracks the VA's own language for granting these benefits.
Well,
So if
when I'm reading here, and this is under law of a veteran, but it's also been my experience, is that other than honorable, also known as less than honorable, is the third type of administrative discharge. It's generally loose when the service member's conduct results in punishment for violation of the UCMJ. Security violations, arrest and conviction by civil authorities, assault, abuse of authority, and drug violations are all examples of the type of conduct warning and other honorable discharge, and having an other honorable discharge of the DD 214, which is discharged, means the service member will not be entitled to veterans benefits and will not be eligible to reenlist.
Right,
Considered
so,
administrative rather than a punitive discharge, it may have consequences in civilian life.
right, so those individuals would not qualify for this discount. So the other than dishonorable is how the VA phrases it. To qualify, you have to have been discharged under other than dishonorable, which is the flip side. Yeah, so your other than honorable discharges all fall into that dishonorable conditions, that as far as the VA is concerned. So they're excluded under the VA, and we track the VA's language to try to be consistent.
The VA's language, I thought, and maybe we're reading different things, and maybe my memory, things have changed, but I thought that the issue is other than honorable discharge is the VA, and if you're in that other than honorable discharge category, you're ineligible for certain benefits.
So the VA's language provides, they use that phrase other than dishonorable.
I'm
So,
gonna suggest that we move on because we're running out of time, and you guys can collaborate, and we can always do a floor amendment, but this one has got to go across the hall.
right, so both the federal,
And there's a lot of fees.
We're still on.
both the US code and the VA regulations use this other than dishonorable phrasing. And so that's what we've tracked. I think if this is creating a lot of concerns,
Randy's got.
you can go back to that honorable language. This is a very small number of people already.
Three.
Um,
This three?
yeah, we were not sure whether this would extend to additional people, the benefit, but you could limit it back to those three and the de minimis cost of the state at that point. In fact, yeah.
Okay, we're talking 20 bucks here, so can we? I think you cost more than that in our time. I want to go through this so we can get the fiscal note, or Senator Chittenden is going to have to take over this meeting. I've got a whole bunch of teachers wearing masks who are waiting to meet with us.
Okay.
Well, I think they said they live in a petri dish. They weren't quite that blunt, but they're wearing masks just so they won't spread any diseases.
Measles.
I don't have, no, there's no measles. I've had measles, so I don't care about measles. You know.
So I'm wondering now if I should be wearing a mask because I have two of those kids.
The
They're both
grandkids
healthy
were,
right now,
yeah, the grandkids were all over on Sunday. I have been exposed to anything I could be exposed to.
I will talk with Senator Brock offline
Yeah.
and just share the language from both the VA regulations and the federal statute. Turning back to the bill.
Okay.
SFI, SSDI.
I'm still programmed.
Yes, so the next is a discount on the cost of an operator's license or operator's privilege card for someone who's receiving SSI or SSDI. This tracks a similar discount that we provide individuals who are getting a non-driver ID. This would be new though. That one is already on the books. The charge here is twice as much to reflect that a driver's license costs about twice as much as a non-driver ID. The next piece below that is another fee waiver for individuals exiting foster care. And then the same for the motorcycle endorsement. They're just two separate paragraphs. Learner's permits. The change here is again, no fee for a learner's permit for someone exiting foster care. And then again, throughout that section, there are multiple charges for motorcycle learner's permit, etc. They're all waived for individuals exiting foster care. So I'm going to keep moving quickly. Commercial learners permit, that does not have a fee. The next couple sections do not have a fee. The next fee waiver, this is a fun one. So this is a scheduling fee for your road test, which DMV has not been, they have not been charging this fee is my understanding. And so it's being repealed because it's not currently being charged. Logan has figures on what it would actually bring in if it was charged. The non-real ID privilege cards, the changes here relate to, this change here is the only substantive change in this section. Federal law requires those cards now to say non-real ID. And so we're updating from privilege card to non-real ID. And as you may or may not know, our privilege cards are available to someone who either cannot or does not wish to provide the documentation necessary to acquire a federally compliant real ID, which you can use to cross the border. A privilege card basically says you're licensed to drive in Vermont. It's a state ID, but it doesn't apply when you go to the border. It's not, can't get you into a federal building, etc.
I just have a friend who lives on a border state in the Midwest, and he said, what do you mean you can just drive across the border with your license? So I looked it up. Vermont is one of 3 or 4 states that our real ID meets the federal requirement. But there was just a news story that said that the federal mandate that everyone have a real ID is set to go into effect, but I guess it has been kicked forward a few times.
It's been pushed out a couple of times at this
Yeah,
point.
I don't think it was pushed out this time. I thought this.
I think
time-
it's,
Was it?
it's either later this year or early next year that it's due to take effect. But Vermont is one of the states that has already come into compliance.
Yeah.
And that's why we have this, we put in this alternative a few years back to allow individuals who could not or did not wish to meet the requirements to continue to get a driver's license. So we wouldn't have unlicensed drivers. Gets into some other issues.
Yes.
But I'm going to skip those and just say that this is for compliance with the federal requirements.
Yeah, it's over earlier. Run YouTube, they'll describe it now.
Okay.
Probably is one line.
Okay. The next couple of sections, I'll let Logan talk about whether there's a projected fiscal impact from these. This is allowing folks to renew their operators licenses early or their non-driver IDs early and then prorate the cost. So let's say I got a 4-year license. I decide to renew it a year early. I could then get a new 4-year license prorated from the date I renewed it. I pay for 3 additional years.
Okay.
But I could get it a year early. So there was testimony presented in the committee that there are some individuals who are concerned with the current potential changes at the federal level who might want to get their driver's license early.
Early, all right.
So
Where is he going?
See about getting some.
Let's go to the employees. We have a button. Clearly disturbing individual in the driveway.
okay.
Okay.
Let's see. Skip over the qualifications section here. Motor vehicle taxes. So this is getting us into the purchase and use tax. The main changes here are really technical changes. JD Power acquired the rights to the NADA official used car guide for determining used car price. So it's now JD Power Values. They rebranded it. So those changes are made in a couple places here. We're going to come back to purchase and use in a couple of sections. So again, for computation of taxable costs, they're looking at JD Power values. And we've also directed the commissioner to develop a process to determine value for vehicles that do not have a clean trade-in value. So the default, if you can't establish the values, the commissioner looks back to clean trade-in.
What's going on?
But there are vehicles that do not have a clean trade-in.
Oh.
I'm gonna drop on YouTube for a minute. I'd be glad to give
Now
you
we
an
have
assessment of
police
the current
chief out
trend.
there, okay. I'm exiting in a few minutes, we'll see how that
Are we
goes.
gonna go off live?
No, we're still here, we just have demonstrators outside, and there's some fairly loud.
Because the gentleman is the influence of alcohol and other drugs
Oh.
used in the building earlier, the concert was there.
Okay.
So the next is when you're applying for a refund to the purchase and use tax. Currently, the statute just says an overpayment shall be refunded. They're proposing to add a 1 year after paying the tax time limit to request the refund.
Okay,
Next is a refund of the registration fee. So this happens, this is a refund where if you've lost the vehicle, so it's total loss. You can seek a refund for part of your registration fee, depending on how many years the car has been registered for. And so they're adding in other proof of cancellation of registration to satisfaction of the commissioner. Currently, you can only provide the registration certificate or the number plates. My understanding is that there may be situations in which the individual may not be able to provide those because of the manner of loss of the vehicle. And so this allows for the commissioner to determine other proof of cancellation
Okay.
that would be satisfactory to process the refund.
the chart.
Yeah. Fuel tax refunds. So this is getting into the refunds for motor vehicle fuel and diesel tax. Both of these here, what we're seeing with the first is shortening the time to request a refund from 33 months following the date of the tax being credited to the user's account to 12 months following the date.
Okay.
Let's see. Alteration of odometers. The next several sections we'll skip over. They're adding definitions, cross references to the definition of conviction. Apparently there have been debates over what a conviction is, and we define that in Title 23. So we're adding cross references to make it extra clear. The next changes relate to clarifying drunken driving statutes.
Any other fees?
Bulk record fee, there we go. So this is, this fee, my understanding is this is currently being charged. These bulk electronic records, this fee is charged based on the number of records you can get per bulk electronic record. And they're just putting the actual fee into the statute to reflect that. The next is the registration fee for trucks.
What are the bulk electronic records?
So my understanding is that the fee for these records, there's a certain number of records you can get, you could get onto a printout. And the record charge has been based on that. And so it's, what they've done is because that wasn't actually spelled out in statute, when you're doing a large records request and they're processing potentially hundreds of these records, what you're looking at is this is sort of that bulk records request charge and how they figured it out. And it's been based on my understanding, and I'm not an expert on this. Tucker would probably be a better source on this, but my understanding is that the charge they currently use at DMV is based on the number of records that they could fit on a printout, certain printout. And they charge based off of that. And so this reflects
What
that
kind of
charge.
records are they?
I think they would be a better source to talk about what sort of records requests they're getting.
Okay.
I caught some of the testimony, but
Is it like cars that are registered in Vermont
I'm
or?
not sure.
Okay,
Yeah, the commissioner would be a better source for that.
Okay.
So I,
it's just, unless I know what kind of records they are, it does, I don't know if 30 cents
is
is
a
a
good.
good
Charge.
charge.
Well, if the commissioner or someone from the staff is watching,
Let us know.
suggest that they send an email. And we can certainly, yeah, they would probably be the best to testify on that.
Yeah, the one thing I see online, for example, are bulk purchases like insurance companies are able to purchase bulk records.
Oh,
Vehicles.
so the insurance companies.
Yeah, so that would be one
purchase.
example, and there are others here.
That rings a bell.
Yeah.
Okay,
All right, so section 34, this is a fun one. Again, it's not actually changing any fees or who the fee is charged on. And I'll start you with the language that is the reason for this. So it's this language down here, which said that fractions of 1,000 pounds shall be computed at the next highest 1,000 pounds, excepting, however, fractions of hundredweight shall be disregarded.
this is clarifying language.
It is. So what happened is at some point when they worked out the schedule, they said, okay, so we're at 80,000 to 90,000, but because of this fractions of a hundredweight shall be disregarded, what we're actually talking about is 80,100 to 90,099 pounds. So they have been charging the registration fees based on the weight of the truck at that schedule. And so we are bringing the language into line with what you would actually pay as a truck owner when you register your vehicle.
Okay,
And these obviously they start with much lower weights, but we're talking about heavy trucks here, 6,000 pounds and above.
and Senator Westman mentioned that when he was here.
We're back to the purchase and use tax. Section 35 is just clarifying language where we're adding cross references to Title 23. Section 8905, though, relates to appeals of the tax, and we're requiring the commissioner to establish procedures. My understanding is the commissioner already has procedures, but is updating them and realized that this language wasn't in there. But again, they would be a better source for testimony on this.
This isn't us.
And then create educational and outreach materials. So basically, and then also they wanted to allow statutory authority to resolve disputes prior to resolving the appeal.
Okay, are there any more fees in here that are ours?
Let me just double check. I think we may be at the end of the fees.
Okay,
Um,
anything else?
What's that favorite?
the good news is if that you don't have an aftermarket tint on your windshield or the driver's side or passenger side window on the front seat, it doesn't change anything for you. But it does prohibit aftermarket tints that are darker than what's permitted under federal law. So
Okay, yeah, I remember, remember that discussion.
it passed last year. And the way last year's was drafted, the language referenced a provision in the Code of Federal Regulations that then referenced an industry standard, which I have a copy of if you're interested. It is lengthy and it goes into everything from the various factors that make up the glass in your windshield and how it has to be constructed. The bottom line is that your window has to allow at least 70% of visible light to come through or more. So we switched up the statute to put that in because the Department of Motor Vehicles was concerned that they couldn't adopt rules based on the language that was in the statute. And so rather than the original request was that we just undo last year's work, your transportation committee said, no, the intent of the legislature was that we don't allow aftermarket tints. And so we're putting this in.
much as we would like to,
Yes.
that isn't in our jurisdiction. And I'm gonna have to leave in a couple minutes.
Okay. The last piece that might even cross into your jurisdiction is this study to look at the purchase and use tax and how it's assessed on used cars. And it basically, the issue that they're looking at is used cars where you buy it for 5,000. The Blue Book value is 10,000, but you bought it for 5,000 because it needs new brakes and a new transmission. So
We're interested in negotiating.
that too.
Okay.
What did you say?
Or
You
you're
want to
just,
come up and tell us what all of this has been about?
Wow.
oh, there's more. Oh, you're gonna
Thank you for this very quick run through.
have dinner at my grandmother's tonight.
That sounds tasty.
But you're going to your grandmother's tonight?
Yeah.
Oh.
Quick here with this, just gonna walk through the fiscal impact of section six turns out from Damien. Overall, there's about 7 sections that'll carry fiscal impact in total,
Right.
transportation fund revenue by $353,000.
Actual regulation.
So a total of 850 between the two bills. Well, no, 6.
853.
$353,000 annual
For this bill, correct?
for this bill, and we have a $330,000
Yes.
for the logging truck purchase and use.
That's 46. Yes.
Okay,
So the sections are those exemptions for the Department of Children and Families. Those are in sections 5, 8, and 9. That's a annual reduction of about $15,000. There's not many people that would qualify for this. So they said they spend about $15,000 annually on that. The EV infrastructure fee exemption in section 6. This is for the state and municipalities would be exempt.
that
This
should
is-
be the big one.
Well, so this one is approximately $29,000 this year. There's I want to say around 400
We'll go on.
EVs right now, but yes, as the state and municipalities and such adopt more
We'll
EVs.
take
this-
away the special red license plates.
Yes, this fee will increase with the number of
Okay.
same rate as adoption. Section 7 is the veteran exemption. Again, this is the de minimis impact. There's a very few number of people who have a vehicle with this approved VA form. DMV estimates there's only 3 in their system, so de minimis impact there. The SSI and SSDI fee reduction. So this is giving an operator's license to people on those programs for $20 and then a replacement of $10. This would result in a T fund reduction of about $309,000. Moving on, section 8. This is another de minimis section. This is just saying that individuals can go online and generate a replacement learner's permit for the operation of a motorcycle at no charge. They used to have to pay $24. Again, there's very few of them that do that every year. This license examination waiver is extending who the commissioner can sort of waive the requirement to take the examination. It's adding junior operators. This section is also estimated to be de minimis based on the population that this is applicable to. Section 13 is the elimination of the exam scheduling fee. How the language is currently written, it gives the commissioner the authority to waive this fee until they can essentially collect this fee electronically. So at this point, DMV isn't collecting this fee. So there's no actual fiscal impact associated with section 13, but if they were to start collecting this fee, it would generate roughly $116,000. But they're
Question about that.
Sure.
And that is what it says is if they would start collecting the fee, revenue from forfeited fees, that's for the guy who doesn't show up for
correct.
driving, but aren't they supposed to be collecting the fee on all scheduled road tests?
So they are, except for if the applicant does show up, then that fee is applied to, I have it written here.
So they have a method to collect it with the people who do show up then.
No, they're not collecting the fee at all right now.
Okay, that's what I thought I read. And so the 4,000 only applies to those people who don't show up for the exam, is that right?
The 4,000,
Yeah, 4,000 appointment holders
they estimate that roughly 4,000 people
do
don't.
not show up.
Correct.
How many people show up?
I don't know I don't know
Well, the
how
number of
many.
people who show up multiplied by $29 is what they should be collecting.
No,
In
the,
addition, isn't it?
the fee is,
If you see here,
is supposed to be for people who don't show up.
this is if the applicant, oh, sorry, up one. If the applicant appears for the scheduled road test, the fee is applied towards the license examination fee, which is a different fee that
Okay.
they do have to pay.
It's
So-
supposed to prevent people from canceling or
Yeah.
skipping
Yeah.
their.
Yes.
Is that, so is the scheduling fee of $29, is that applied to everybody? Or is it only applied to people who don't show up?
The scheduling fee would be applied to everyone. It is currently not
And
being
it's
applied.
not being applied to anyone.
Correct.
But the number of people, when you figure the revenue effect of that, if everybody who had a scheduling fee showed up and paid their $29, that's the amount of money that we're exposed to, isn't it?
Except for then that the revenue collected, the $29 goes to pay for the license examination fee, which is a separate fee that is currently being paid for. So net revenue generation, if they started collecting this fee, would only be from the forfeited fees from the 4,000 appointments, which is
So-
roughly 150.
So, in other words, if a person does show up as scheduled,
Yes.
they pay a certain amount. And what do they pay?
For scheduling, they pay nothing currently, and then they pay the cost
They
of the
pay
license
nothing
examination.
scheduling.
And then they
What's the
pay,
cost of the exam?
unless I'm not, I don't know how that.
It sounds like they only put that fee if you show up. You don't have to pay $29 to make the appointment.
So
Well, I guess what my question is, I'm just trying to understand whether or not you have a situation in which, everybody pays a fee for taking the road test or whatever it is,
Scheduling.
but they would pay an additional fee for scheduling in the normal set of circumstances?
No, so the way it works is that there's a fee to do the road test.
Okay,
There's a fee to schedule the appointment.
yeah.
The road test fees are charged right now for people who take the road test.
Mhm.
The scheduling fee should be charged to everybody who schedules an appointment, but they're not charging it to anyone because administratively they can't figure out how to do it. If they were charging that fee, the $29 fee, anybody who shows up for their appointment and takes the road test, that $29 fee is put toward the cost of their road test. If they don't show up for their appointment and there's an estimated 4,000 people who
No,
don't show up,
I understand what I'm
then
reading.
they are charged, they should be charged that $29
No,
fee.
The only question I'm
But
trying to
so-
understand is as far as the statute reason, I could,
The statute,
record.
nobody's following it right now. They're
Well,
not
yeah.
charging this fee.
but let's assume that they had the ability to account for the fee. Would they be charging both? Is that what it says or isn't it what it says?
They would technically be charging the fee, but then they would be canceling that fee and putting it toward a
Well,
different fee.
that's my
for
only
people
question.
who
Is
showed up.
that the way the statute reads? Or did the commissioner make a decision that we aren't going to charge that fee, but we're going to continue to charge the fee for the actual test? In addition, that's what I'm trying to understand. Which of the two is true in terms of the language of the statute?
Jamie, you know the answer to that?
So I think that I don't think the current commissioner made a choice not to charge this fee. I think that occurred at some point in the past, or perhaps the fee was added and never actually charged. I don't know the history far enough back with this to know exactly what the series of events was. I know that currently and in the recent past, this fee has not been charged. That's the extent of my knowledge.
Okay.
So
Well, we can certainly look at the statute, and see exactly what which of these things statute says. The reason I'm raising it and being a nuisance about it is we've seen situations before in which departments have decided to stop collecting fees that we've told them to collect. I think of some issues in telecommunication, for example, regarding wires in the right of way. And somebody's just decided, hey, we're not going to do it anymore, regardless of what the legislature passed. That's what I'm concerned about.
So.
Yeah, they say
within
in
the
section
statute-
634, the fee for examination, there's the scheduling fee. They apparently have not been collecting it.
But there is language that says the commissioner may waive this fee until a point in which they can administer the fee electronically.
Okay.
Which they are claiming.
There's
they
there's
cannot.
language in statute that does that.
Yes,
Okay,
within-
can you just point me to that then?
yes, it's
Okay.
being removed from the bill. This section would remove all of that.
But it's in statute right now, right?
Correct.
Okay, where is it in statute?
It's on page 18 of the bill, section 13. 23 VSA 634.
VSA 634. Okay,
Yeah, there is a line that they can waive that fee.
okay, thank you.
So there's a charge to get this bill out tonight so we can get to appropriations and move forward. We were gonna lose a member in a minute or two. Is this enough to pause this, Senator Brock, or?
No.
Okay.
No, go ahead. No, I'll look it up separately. If there's an issue, I'll raise it.
No, I would just love to know why with the new DMV system, we can't, you go online, you schedule your road test. And before you can submit your scheduling, oh, gotta pay $29. And then you go in, you do it. And then you pay for your license fee. I just don't understand why. Because at a time when we heard from the chair of transportation that we have no money in the transportation bill. And each bill we've gotten from transportation takes money out of the transportation fund.
Yeah, I mean, $686,000 between these two bills, that's real money taken out of the transportation fund. So if this is $116,000 for people who just fail to show up for their
Right.
appointment, this
Right.
one seems like an easy one to be like, hey, no, you gotta do this.
That's probably why that's 4,000.
I want to propose an amendment.
I can't speak for DMV either as to why they can't collect it, so
Yeah, it's not cool to be trying to vote out bills, but not actually getting any testimony besides from our staff. Like, we have questions for the DMV, like they should be in
can
here.
we do it, Dave?
I don't feel like the committee's ready to vote on this, so I think it
We
might
can
be
always,
best.
let it go. And send it over to the House.
Well, it seems to like both of these bills that have kind of major impacts on the transportation fund. Well, we don't have full information on them.
Yeah, we don't.
Damien, what do you know about the schedule? So if we don't move this out today, we move it out tomorrow, Wednesday, that will then put it to appropriations possibly on Friday for them to consider it. Yeah, we can just maybe suspend the rules.
Yeah, so your tricky thing is you're an afternoon committee. You're gonna be meeting after the floor tomorrow. So you won't get it on the calendar until Thursday, which means it won't be able to be referred until Thursday.
Well, we could suspend rules
Yeah, there,
pending its
I
notice,
mean,
entry into the
They would
notice.
have they would have, Friday.
you will still be considering it tomorrow, though, when you're on.
Oh, yeah, because we're,
No, I mean, if you
So-
go ahead and pass this, and we, the next day find that there's an issue here, which we can certainly look at, regardless of having a bill in our possession, then we can always do an amendment or something on the floor. But it's a question, and it's not the first time we've had this kind of question, which is why I want to see it resolved.
So we should want to hear from DMV, but I think I heard a comfort level with moving this
Yeah.
bill out of the.
Move it for now, that way we
Is there
aren't
a
holding
motion to do
things
so?
up.
So Senator Beck moves favorably S. 123.
As presented.
I'm gonna vote no, so I can hold the option of doing the amendment. Okay, just so you know.
That's fine.
Yeah. So it just makes me a little comfortable.
you ready? You want to go?
Yeah.
Senator Gulick,
Yes.
Senator Brock.
Yeah.
Senator Chipman. Yes. Senator Beck,
Yes.
Senator Hardy,
No.
Senator Mattos, no. Senator Cummings.
So maybe Charlotte, if we could, if we can get the commissioner of DMV or somebody at DMV who can talk to us tomorrow
Who wants to report?
or Thursday, just so we can, so Senator Matos and I could do an amendment if we get additional information.
I got a big Friday. I'm thinking the Thursday schedule is pretty full too.
Yeah.
Is it?
27.
The amendment wouldn't be made till Tuesday of next week. Yeah.
Oh, right. We don't, it's not gonna be on the floor by Friday. Okay, as long as we just get information so we can do an amendment if necessary.
Probably notice calendar on Tuesday.
I didn't mean to rush that. It just.
Yeah,
no, you're fine.
No, it's
You're
okay. It's okay.
Really fine.
Just,
Anything else before we hop off YouTube and adjourn?
Do we have a reporter or no?
I'll report. Unless somebody really wanted to do it.
do you think you can help us get some more information about that?
Good.
We're good? All right, we can go off YouTube.